He found an alien girl buried alive. Then everything changed.
He found an alien girl buried alive, so why did the wind keep whispering his name back to him? If one human choice could change everything, what would it cost to make it? The real basin wore evening like a bruised violet light smeared over broken earth, wind combing the scrub in long, patient strokes. Luke Harper drove the salvage ridge slow, tires nosing through grit and black glass, the scanner on his dash muttering to itself in soft beeps. He had learned to read this land by sound, the hollow ring of flattened cans, the sharp tick of cracked capacitors, the lonely keening of fence wire when storms rolled off the plateaus. Tonight he heard something else. Tap, 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 pause, tap, not metal, not wind. A pattern steady as a heartbeat trying to be brave. Luke killed the engine. The world stepped closer. He grabbed his entrenching tool, slung a canteen over one shoulder, and followed the sound downslope to a long, shallow rise where the dust was wrong-smoothed, not drifted. Weighted from above, not shaped by wind. "Hello?" he called. His voice sounded too big in the quiet. "Hold on, I'm here." Tap, tap. Faster now. He dropped to his knees and dug, scooping warm grit with both hands, tool biting when the layer hardened. His fingers hit tarp. He tore it back and found a clear respirator mask pressed to a small face the color of sea glass, streaked with dust, framed by pale filaments that clung to her skin like drowned hair. Her eyes were shut. Frost bloomed inside the mask with each shallow breath. "You're okay," he lied into the wind. He thumbed the valve on the canister clipped to the mask. The gauge twitched up from red to a thin, stubborn yellow. The frost thinned. Lashes trembled. He dug out her shoulders, her arms, the narrow hump of her back. When the sand let go, it did so all at once like a lung remembering how. Luke lifted her carefully, surprised by how light she was, how the bones under his palms felt like folded wires. He carried her to the truck and laid her on the passenger bench, tucking his jacket around her to block the grit. Her eyes opened, crescent pupils adjusted, widened. She flinched back from the cab ceiling, breathing the way frightened animals breathe fast, silent, all throat. "Hey," Luke said softly, tapping his chest. "Luke." She watched his mouth, then tried the name. "Lou." "Kya." The syllables had music in them, as if her voice had grown up near water. "Myra, Myra," he echoed, and it felt like a promise. She turned her head toward the hump of dust he'd opened. Two smaller rises lay beyond it, narrow and too neat. Her hand lifted and fell. "Two," she whispered through the mask. "Younger." Luke's gut went cold. He grabbed the tool and ran. The second tarp broke under his fingers, an empty hollow where something small had been. He dug faster, moved to the third, hit plastic, tore it wide, and found a child's mask clouded with breath that had stopped. He slammed a spare valve from his kit onto the intake, twisted, and begged the gauge to climb. It did. The tiny chest fluttered. The mask cleared to show a face like Myra's, but rounder, softer filaments braided with a charm bead caught in the strand. "Stay," Luke told the child. "To the wind, to the world." He lifted the little body, carried it to the truck, and set the small form against Myra's side. "Your sister," he said. Myra's eyes filled. "Lyra," she whispered, pressing her palm to the youngest one's mask. The gauge steadied. A ridiculous relief clawed through Luke so hard his knees almost gave. A shadow crossed the truck. He looked up. The craft that slid over the ridge made no sound. Not colony medwing, no triage strobes, no bright, weak air paint. Matte gray, low profile, edges blurred to confuse scanners. It pivoted on whispering jets and drifted to a hover 50 meters out. A hatch irised, and three figures dropped half armor, visors down, weapons slung the way you carry tools you've used too often to be afraid of. "Identify," the lead called, voice filtered flat. "Salvager," Luke said. "Finder of kids who shouldn't be underground. Transfer custody of subjects," the voice replied. "Family adjudication in progress. Your presence is noted." Myra stiffened. Her gloved fingers clutched Luke's sleeve. "No," she said, very small. Luke put himself between the truck and the men. They were buried alive, he said. Your adjudication can meet me standing up. A second sound lighter, nearer. Luke turned as a figure stepped from the scrub. Tall, long-limbed, coat the color of rain. Not human ears tapering, bones fine, but the set of her mouth was familiar. The look of someone who had kept the town from breaking, one decision at a time. Back away from the cab, she said to the mercs. Her voice had a calm edge. Two small shapes padded at her heels, worms the size of house cats. One night black with ember freckles, the other pewter with a luminous frill. They watched like engineers reading numbers. Name? The lead demanded. Claire Rowan, she said. Licensed mediator, Aurealis de Aspera. Your adjudication is a burial. Clause 9 of the accord says no. She glanced at Luke. You pulled them out? 2, Luke said. We were late for the third. Claire's jaw tightened. We'll see late means witness, not loss. The mercs lifted their weapons. The accord is dead. Funny, Claire said. So are a lot of courts until someone uses them. Luke slid behind the wheel. You planning to quote law at men who carry silencers? Not if you can drive. She never took her eyes off the mercs. There's a smuggler's cut north. If you hit it at speed, the ground forgets the names it was given. I parked a safe cell there years ago. Cell? Room that keeps people alive when rooms stop doing that. The lead lifted a hand. The Matt Craft hummed, nose dipping. A gun port winked open like an eye, deciding it is soon enough. On my mark, Claire said quietly. When the gun sights, brake hard. That's not usually how I keep trucks moving, Luke muttered. Trust the ground to be stubborn, she said. It's a good teacher. The port brightened. Now, Luke stomped the brake. The craft shot flashed past the hood and ate sand 30 meters ahead. Embers sprang from the scrub, jaws snapping on the still glowing round. He twisted and spat it into a dune, where it fizzed like an angry beetle and died. Kestrel flared her frill and shrieked, a pure needled sound that made Luke's molars ache. The mercs flinched. Go, Claire said, moving as the word left her mouth. The Wyerms vaulted light and clean, Ember to the hood, Kestrel into the cab with the girls. Claire swung into the passenger seat and slammed the door. North, now. Luke went. Gravel spat, dust rose. The gray craft slid sideways to pursue, low and hungry. Myra clung to her sister with one hand and to the dash with the other. Luke found the old cut by the way the wind changed colder, thinner, smelling like storms trapped in stone. Straight, Claire said. If the air looks wrong, that's right. The wrong air hung ahead in a soft, shimmering veil. Luke aimed for it. The merc craft dropped lower, wash buffeting the tailgate. A second hatch opened, and a drone the size of a dinner plate spun out on a hummingbird path. Brake, Claire said. He hit the pedal. The drone overshot, wobbled, tried to reacquire, and Ember met it midder, teeth closing with a neat, vicious click. He spat the ruined thing into the dirt. It popped like a shameful secret. Luke's mouth found a grin it hadn't used in months. I like your dragons. They like being right, Claire said. Hold steady. The world thinned. A shimmer opened in the cut circles within circles traced in pale light, turning like slow gears. Luke drove into it because the only other choice was not. The truck plunged, the air folded, and the merc craft dove after. Gravity went sideways and then agreed to behave again. The truck kissed a surface that wasn't ground but tried hard to be. Lights like fireflies drifted, interested. The cell sighed as if a story were about to start. Luke exhaled. We made. The matte gray craft punched through the shimmer and snarled its way into the cell after them. Claire's hand settled on the dash. Steady. Cells learn from who arrives, she said. Let's teach it what we want it to be. The mercs dropped to the flexing floor. Weapons raised, then faltered, confused as the room bent their aim into jokes. A shot curled into a ribbon and tied itself around Kestrel's ankle like a bracelet. She shook it, offended. The floor rippled where the lead stepped, turning slick as memory. He skidded, swore, and went down hard. Myra pressed her palms to the glowing rings under the truck and whispered words Luke didn't know. The lights warmed and the air listened. Shelter, Claire said. Witness. Passage. The Matcraft's bellyport irised again. A bright red brand began to form in the faux sky, hungry and legal. Luke felt the room waiting, as if a question had been asked and only his voice could answer. He set his hand on the circle nearest the petals. Heat climbed into his palm, the kind that feels like being believed. "Take us someplace that protects kids first and counts money lost," he said. "Take us where witness beats ownership." The red brand trembled, thinned, blew away like smoke. The cell opened its throat. Luke held the wheel, drove into the spiral, and the world let them fall toward law that still remembered what it was for. Behind them, the craft tried to follow. The cell closed its mouth, and somewhere ahead, sirens rose not hunting, but welcoming. The landing hit hard enough to rattle Luke's teeth, but the truck held together. The sirens weren't warning anymore. They were coordination, layered tones guiding them to safety. The cell had spat them out onto smooth stone under a vaulted sky etched with light. He blinked. This wasn't desert. It was a city beneath the world. 3 towering pillars surrounded a central square, each crowned with an emblem of intertwined rings. Between them shimmered a translucent dome that pulsed like a heartbeat. The sound of rushing water echoed from unseen channels. The air smelled like ozone and wet metal. Claire stepped from the cab, her coat still glowing faintly. "The Accord's last court," she murmured. "I didn't think it still existed." Luke followed, boots crunching faint grit onto marble that reflected the faintest stars. "You sure this isn't another one of your cells?" She shook her head. "No, this is the real thing." Mira climbed from the back seat, clutching her little sister's hand. Lyra stirred faintly, breathing steady now. "Where are we?" she asked. "The Tryon Hall," Claire answered. "A place built when humans and my people still trusted each other. It's where truth was supposed to mean something." A deep hum cut through the air. A platform rose from the stone in the center of the square, bearing 3 robed figures, 2 humans and 1 Aurealis elder with skin that shimmered like starlight beneath frost. Their eyes glowed with recognition when they saw the circles on the floor beneath Luke's boots. "Clause 9 witness," one intoned. "Identify yourselves." Claire bowed slightly. "Claire Rowan, Aurealis diaspora mediator." "This is Luke Harper, human salvager, citizen of the Northern Basin. These are the rescued miners of the Zephyr line." The elder's gaze rested on Myra and Lyra, and her expression softened. "Buried alive," she said, voice trembling with restrained fury. "Silence contracting again?" Luke nodded grimly. "They followed us here. Tried to claim them like they were property." The human judge exchanged a look with his counterpart. "That violates every treaty still standing," he said. "They don't care," Claire replied. "They think treaties are stories told by the dead." The elder lifted her hand. 3 rings of light spun outward from her palm, weaving into a translucent veil that shimmered above them. "Then we will remind them that stories still breathe." The ground trembled. The cell shimmer reappeared at the far edge of the square pushed open from the wrong side. The mercraft forced its way through, warped and bleeding static. 3 soldiers spilled onto the stone, weapons raised, visors cracked. Their armor flickered under the hall's light, as though the truth itself rejected them. The elder didn't flinch. "Lay down your arms," she said. The lead merc sneered, voice ragged through the broken filter. "We serve Harrow and Low. You have no jurisdiction." "Jurisdiction belongs to the living," the elder said. "And you have entered sacred ground." The merc aimed his weapon, then froze. The gun was dissolving in his hands, atoms unraveling into dust. The court itself had judged it unworthy. Luke stepped forward. "You buried kids to cover a profit report," he said. "Tell me, did you even know their names?" The merc didn't answer. He couldn't. The truth light above them burned brighter, and he sank to his knees, choking on the silence that came after shame. Claire's dragons hissed softly, circling him like tiny suns. Then the hall itself shuddered once, twice. Above them, a shadow spread across the vaulted sky. Luke looked up and swore under his breath. A massive ship descended, its hull marked with the Harrow and Low crest. It blotted out the starlight like a false moon. Claire's face hardened. "They traced the signal." The elder spread her arms. Let them hear what they've done. She turned to Luke. You called the witness human. The hall answers you now. What truth will you speak? Luke hesitated. The air around him vibrated with light, waiting. Mira clutched her sister, eyes wide. Claire's hand brushed his shoulder, once a grounding weight. He took a breath. That no child should be buried for someone else's comfort. That mercy isn't weakness. That if we forget that, we stop being worth saving. The hall thundered. Every light flared white, then gold. The ship above them cracked as the resonance climbed higher, its engines choking on guilt it couldn't understand. Truth received, the elder said. Clause 9 complete. The accord stands renewed. The ground split open, not in destruction but rebirth. The rings beneath Luke's feet blazed, forming a beam that shot skyward, piercing the ship's hull. Circuits overloaded. The Harrow and Low vessel broke apart like glass under pressure, shards of light scattering into the stars. When the echo faded, only silence remained, pure, clean, and full of breath. Mira's voice was the first to rise. Luke, she whispered. He looked down at her and managed a tired smile. It's over. Claire shook her head. No, it's beginning. The elder bowed to them both. The galaxy has heard you. The accord breathes again. But peace is a seed, not a crown. You must guard what you've planted. Luke nodded slowly. Then I guess I'd better learn how to farm again. The air of the Triune Hall still trembled with the echo of Luke's words. The beam that had shattered the Harrow and Low ship had left a scar across the clouds, a burning line of gold that pulsed like the heartbeat of the planet itself. Mira and Lyra stood together under the new light, small hands clasped, eyes wide. For the first time, Luke saw something in their gaze that wasn't fear. It was belief fragile, but alive. Claire stood beside him, her coat faintly smoking at the edges. The accord heard you, she said softly, and so did every system still listening for hope. Luke rubbed his palms, still tingling with warmth from the hall's energy. I didn't do much. Just said what anyone with a pulse should have said. That's exactly why it worked, she said. The universe remembers sincerity longer than laws. The hall dimmed. Its glow softened into quiet daylight, and from the far end, the elder descended the marble steps, flanked by attendants carrying data tablets and relic cases. She stopped before Luke, her silver eyes like twin mirrors. You spoke truth without agenda, she said. That is rare, even here. But your words have kindled old fires. Others will come to snuff it out or to keep it burning. Let them come, Luke replied. I've got dragons now. Claire's mouth twitched. You've got one battered truck, 2 children, and an inconvenient conscience. Dragons are optional. The elder smiled faintly, the kind of expression that didn't need humor to be warm. Perhaps that's all a civilization ever needed to begin again. She turned to her aides. Prepare the child refugees for transit. The accord must spread this witness beyond Rill. The aides bowed and guided Mira and Lyra toward the hall's inner chambers. Ember and Kestrel followed quietly, their scales reflecting the steady rhythm of the lights overhead. When they were gone, the elder faced Luke and Claire again. The accord must name new envoy symbols of this renewal. Claire Rowan, your oath is reinstated. And you, Luke Harper, will serve as our human counterpart. Luke blinked. Envoy? I'm no diplomat. I dig things out of dirt for a living. The elder inclined her head. And you dug compassion out of dust when everyone else buried it. That's diplomacy enough. He opened his mouth to protest again, but caught Claire's look, half warning, half pride, and let the words die unsaid. Later, as the hall emptied and dusk bled through the vaulted ceiling, Luke and Claire stood on the balcony, overlooking the reborn city. The sky was full of broken light remnants of the battle drifting down like falling stars. They'll come for us, Luke said quietly. The ones who lost their control. Harrow and Low wasn't working alone. Claire nodded. I know. The corporate courts are fractured, but their reach is long. The Accord's resurrection threatens everything they've built. So what's next? Another speech? Not this time. She glanced at him, her pale eyes reflecting the faint pulse of the hall's energy. Now we protect the witnesses. Mira and Lyra will need a home, and the Accord needs proof it can stand outside this sanctuary. Luke leaned on the railing, watching the dragons circle the towers. Home, huh? The farm's still ashes, but the soil remembers how to grow things. That's what the Accord was built on, Claire said. Soil and memory. He smiled. Then we'll start there. But peace didn't last long. Hours. Later, the hall's warning bells began to sing again, not a violent alarm, but a tone of mourning. Claire stiffened. That's an arrival beacon, she said. But not a Accord code. A holographic panel bloomed in the air before them, showing a vast ship descending through the upper atmosphere. Its hull bore no crest, no name, only a single sigil. 3 intersecting lines forming a spiral. Luke frowned. Who's that? Claire's expression darkened. An old order. The silence contracting board merged with something worse. The consortium of claim. The same people who buried those kids. Worse, she said. The ones who taught them how. The hall's elder appeared again, robes trailing light. The consortium has declared open claim on the Accord's assets, she said. They mean to erase what we rebuilt before it spreads. Luke gritted his teeth. They'll burn the truth before letting it change them. Then, we take the truth somewhere they can't reach it, Claire said. The Accord's heart was always meant to move. The heart? She pointed upward, toward the beam of gold that still shimmered faintly in the sky. The Accord's eye. The thing that turned your words into power. It's not a machine, it's a seed. Luke looked at her. You're saying the Accord itself is alive? Alive enough to choose, she said. And right now it's choosing you. The ground trembled beneath them. The hall's inner core split open, revealing a column of light that reached from floor to ceiling. Inside, a crystalline structure pulsed with slow rhythm like a heart in stasis. The elder's voice shook. It wants to bond to ensure survival through a living link. You spoke the truth that woke it. It's asking permission to remember through you. Luke hesitated, the air thick around him. What happens if I say yes? Claire's voice was barely above a whisper. You become the bridge between empathy and memory. The Accord will live in you and through you. He glanced toward the corridor where Myra and Lyra had vanished, then up at the trembling stars. If that's what it takes to keep them safe, then yeah, I'll say yes. The crystal's light flared, engulfing him in gold and white. Energy poured through his veins, not burning but belonging. Every breath felt shared. Every heartbeat doubled. Claire reached out instinctively, but the elder stopped her. He's becoming what the Accord once was, the old woman said. Humanity's conscience with a voice. When the light dimmed, Luke stood in silence. His eyes shone faintly now, gold threaded with blue. Luke? Claire said softly. He turned toward her, his smile steady. Still me. Just not alone anymore. Outside, the stars shimmered. The consortium ships drew closer, their shadows stretching across the horizon. The Accord's voice. Luke's voice, now layered with something vast and ancient, spoke into the wind. If they come to bury the truth again, we'll show them what grows from the soil of mercy. The hall's pillars flared in answer, circles of light spinning like new suns. The morning after Luke's transformation felt too calm. The Triton Hall glowed under silver dawn, its marble towers reflecting light that hadn't come from the sun. The air hummed faintly alive, listening. Luke Harper stood at the heart of the Accord's courtyard, still trying to feel human. His reflection in the shallow pool no longer looked entirely his own. Faint veins of gold glimmered beneath his skin, pulsing to the rhythm of something deeper. The Accord's heartbeat, now synced with his. Claire watched from the balcony above, her dragons coiled at her feet. Ember's eyes followed every movement, while Kestrel's frill flickered restlessly. You're adjusting fast, Claire said, walking down the steps to meet him. He gave a dry laugh. Feels like the world's breathing through me, and I'm just trying to keep up. You're the conduit now, she said. The Accord's memory needs a voice. You gave it one. Luke rubbed the back of his neck. Doesn't feel like much of a gift when I can hear every cry for help within 5 systems. Then, don't carry it alone. Claire's tone softened. The Accord connects minds, but it was built on trust. Let it share the weight. He glanced at her. You sound like you've done this before. I was bonded once, she admitted. Briefly. It nearly broke me. You're doing better than I did. A low tremor rolled across the ground, subtle but deliberate. The dragon stiffened. The elder hurried out from the hall, her robes trailing light. They've arrived, she said. The consortium fleet has entered low orbit. 17 ships. Their flagship carries a kinetic lance. One hit could level this city. Claire's eyes darkened. They're coming to finish what Harrow and Lowe started. Then we meet them with something older than their greed, the elder said. She turned to Luke. You're the bridge now. The Accord will respond to your will. But remember, violence is its last language. Luke nodded slowly. Then let's speak the first one. The hall's pillars flared, sending 3 streams of light skyward. In orbit, the consortium ships hesitated. Their scanners registered no weapons, no shields, only music. Across frequencies, a signal broadcast, a simple tone layered over 3 harmonics. It wasn't an attack. It was a request. Stand down. You are heard. You are forgiven. Do not repeat your crime. The fleet answered with fire. Missiles streaked downward, flaring against the atmosphere like false stars. Luke's eyes closed. The gold beneath his skin brightened, veins turning to molten light. No, he whispered. The missiles froze midair. Every warhead hung motionless, vibrating under the pressure of invisible force. Then, one by one, they disassembled casings unfolding like petals, explosives dissolving into harmless mist. The pieces drifted away, falling as gentle sparks over the desert. The consortium fleet faltered, confusion rippling through its ranks. Claire's voice carried over the hall's comm line. They don't understand mercy, Luke. They'll see that as weakness. Then we'll show them strength, he said quietly. Helios 9, the liberated dragon ship, rose from its perch beyond the mountains. Its massive wings unfurled, each panel alive with gold light. The smaller dragons leapt from the hall to join it, their voices twining in song. The sky thundered not from weapons, but from resonance. The dragon's harmonies merged with Luke's pulse, forming a single unified chord that spread through the upper atmosphere. Every ship that fired again found its targeting systems erased, replaced with a phrase that pulsed on every display. We remember the buried. The Accord was speaking now. Through Luke, through the dragons, through every voice that had chosen compassion over fear. The consortium's flagship fired one last time, a desperate beam of red light that tore through the sky. Luke raised his hand, gold energy flaring outward. The beam split in 2, curving around the hall and vanishing harmlessly into the sea beyond. He felt the recoil through every cell in his body. Claire ran to steady him, her hand pressing against his shoulder. You can't hold this forever, she said. I don't have to, he whispered. Just long enough. The Accord's energy surged again, but this time, Luke didn't direct it at the fleet. He sent it into the ground. Golden veins of light spread outward from the hall, racing across the planet's surface through rivers, cities, and barren plains. Every settlement, every outpost that had ever known cruelty or silence began to hum with the same energy. Machines faltered. Networks rebooted. Even the dead fields of Real Basin shimmered as life began to take root once more. On board the consortium flagship, alarms blared. Systems failed one after another until the commander, a man with eyes like steel dust, slammed his fist on the console. What are they doing? His officer answered, voice hollow. There, forgiving us. From the hall, Claire watched the sky as the enemy fleet turned slowly, their weapons dimming. The ships aligned in silent retreat, breaking orbit one by one. The last to leave the flagship paused just long enough to transmit a single phrase before jumping to light speed. We will remember the buried. Luke sank to one knee, exhausted. The glow beneath his skin dimmed to a faint ember. Claire caught him before he fell completely. It's done, she said, voice trembling with relief. You did it. No, he murmured. We did? The elder approached, her eyes shining. The Accord lives again. You've rewritten the meaning of strength, Luke Harper. The galaxy will remember this day. Outside, dawn broke over Real Basin. The desert bloomed for the first time in centuries, small flowers of glass blue and gold rising through the ash. Mira and Lyra ran barefoot through the fields, their laughter echoing against the mountains. Luke stood at the edge of the balcony, watching them, his new golden eyes reflecting the horizon. Claire joined him, silent. He smiled faintly. Guess this is what mercy looks like when it learns to stand its ground. She looked at him. And what happens now? Luke's gaze followed the dragons as they soared through the light. Now, he said, we build something worth protecting. The sun rose over Rill Basin for the first time without smoke in the sky. The ground that had once swallowed lives now glowed with veins of gold and green, fragile roots piercing the ash. Wind carried the scent of renewal. The accord song hummed beneath it, a quiet rhythm threading through every living thing. Luke Harper stood in the field barefoot, his boots forgotten at the porch steps. His arm, once scarred and human, now shimmered with faint light under the skin, the color of the dawn itself. Every heartbeat was a whisper from the accord, a reminder that he wasn't alone. Behind him, the rebuilt hall stood alive again. Dragons nested on its terraces. Refugees, farmers, engineers, and ex-mercenaries moved together through the courtyard, building shelters and planting seed pods that glowed faintly blue. This wasn't an empire. It was something smaller and better. It was community. Claire walked out from the hall, her coat replaced with a rough worker's jacket. Ember and Kestrel followed at her heels, feathers of light trailing in the dirt. The children are leaving for the northern colony, she said. The Accord's council wants them somewhere peaceful. Luke nodded, smiling faintly. Myra says she's going to be a teacher. She already is, Claire replied. Half the technicians have been learning Zephyri script from her drawings. He chuckled softly. Guess she's teaching us how to build worlds again. That's what the Accord was always meant to do, Claire said. She looked out over the horizon, where Helios 9, once a weapon, now hovered in quiet orbit, a guardian of light. The consortium signed their surrender minutes ago. They're calling it the Treaty of Witness. Luke's expression softened. That was Myra's word, he said. Witness. Claire nodded. And yours, Mercy. They walked together down the hill toward the irrigation field. The dragons circled above them, singing softly. The air vibrated with their harmony. Claire stopped halfway, turning to look at Luke. You know, the Accord doesn't have to stay bound to one world, she said. It can move again. Spread to others. You saying it wants to go? I'm saying you could. Luke frowned. Leave the basin? Leave it better than you found it, she said gently. That's all it ever asked of us. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked toward the rebuilt horizon, the towers, the farms, the people, the laughter of the children. I never thought I'd be part of something this big, he said. But if there's more out there, more people buried under someone else's greed, then maybe it's time to start digging again. Claire smiled, faint and genuine. Then the Accord has its envoy. That evening, the stars came out early. Helios 9 descended to the surface, engines whispering. Its hull reflected the fields and the faint aurora still curling over the hull. A boarding ramp unfolded, soft gold light spilling down the slope. Luke stood before it, Mira and Lyra beside him. They each wore small pendants made of dragon scale, a gift from Ember and Kestrel. The younger one hugged his leg. You'll come back, right? He crouched to meet her eyes. If I can't, he said, then you'll see me in every light that listens. Myra hugged him tightly. Thank you for finding us, he smiled. You found me too. Claire waited by the ramp, the dragons already aboard. You ready? She asked. Luke looked around one last time. The fields, sunrise, the sound of human and alien voices blending in laughter and work. As I'll ever be, she nodded. Then let's go teach the stars what empathy sounds like. The ramp lifted. Engines hummed. The ship rose through clouds painted in gold. Below them, the hall's beacon activated, a column of white light piercing the sky, 3 circles intertwined at its heart. The signal pulsed once, then spread across the void, carrying a message written in both human and Zephyri script. The Accord lives. Mercy is our weapon. Empathy is our law. As the ship broke orbit, Luke closed his eyes. He could feel 1,000 faint heartbeats through the Accord's link people rebuilding, dragons nesting, voices laughing again. For the first time in a long time, he believed the galaxy might listen. And for the first time in history, it actually did. If you believe mercy and courage, can rewrite galaxies. Subscribe now and join us for more cinematic HFY sci-fi stories. Every story reminds us that even among stars, humanity's greatest power is compassion.